All right, let's take a look at folks. Let's take a look at that bell. Ding-a-ling. Come on, ring the bell, folks. Anyway, stock market up a little bit. So it was a decent day. Again, consumer price index yesterday, producer price index today. A little bit of inflation ticking up just a touch, but not a lot. Certainly not anywhere near where it was during the Biden years. That's for sure. Market waiting to see what's going on with tariffs. We keep hearing there's some announcements to be made. 223 or so in the Dow Jones on the upside. S&P up a little bit, couple 5, 19, 20 points. NASDAQ up 50 or so as well. One of the other things we've been talking about, oil. Oil prices hovering around $66, $67 a barrel. We want to see that lower. Crypto made a move back up today a little bit. So we were up to 123,000 at the high a couple of days ago, dipped down to 115,000 yesterday, back up to 119 actually as we speak. So markets digesting all the economic data that's coming at us. Without further ado, I'm going to call this an exclusive because I believe this is an exclusive, certainly conservative media exclusive. My first guest was a speaker this past weekend at TPUSA. He's the senior political commentator at CNN, host of the Scott Jennings Show on Salem Radio Network, and author of the soon-to-be-published book, A Revolution of Common Sense, How Donald Trump Stormed Washington and Fought for Western Civilization. Let's have a big round of applause, folks, for Scott Jennings. Really, really good to... I've never met you formally, Scott. We've traveled in similar circles, and I want to tell you, you do a damn good job doing what they have you do on CNN. I'm going to ask you, if folks that don't know about this, can I do this, if I may be so rude, is to play a soundbite of, I think this was probably yesterday or last day or so. This is what Scott deals with on a daily basis. Listen.
Let's be very clear. He promised three things: the price of eggs, the price of bacon, and the price of apples were going to go down. I can quote him. It was on August 15th of last year. He said they're going to go down almost immediately when I become president. All of them are up. They're up year over year, and that's a fact. And these, you think it's hysteria or whatever you called it. People are suffering. You know how I know this? Because I heard all about that from you last year when I would debate you, and you kept talking about how the price of eggs is really high. Well, guess what? It's much higher now than it was when you and I were debating.
You're literally lying about the eggs.
Wait, excuse me. They're up. No, whoa.
The eggs are down.
Guys, stop. Okay, Scott, before you accuse her of lying, I literally just went over this. She is correct that year over year, the
Since
price...
Donald Trump took office, what happened to the eggs?
Oh, my God. Do you not understand that the difference between...
Who was the president last year at this time?
Scott, do you understand?
And then when did they spike?
Julie, let me just resolve this so we can move on, because this is a silly conversation.
You totally derailed this conversation. She's trying to have a serious panel, and you're out here arguing
are derailing the conversation.
No, I'm not.
Pardon me.
She's not telling the truth about the eggs.
But you're derailing the conversation, okay?
And the reason why I want to bring this up, Scott, you're right. You were right there, my friend. The price of eggs are substantially lower than when Trump came into office. And that's really the only thing you can judge. That's exactly what he said he was going to do. Lower the price of food and fuel. And he's doing it. These Abby Phillips and I know Julie Rodzinski very well. Very, very smart people. And they knew what they were doing. They're playing the semantics game with a year over year versus since Trump took over. Great job. But how do you do it night to night, Scott?
That debate was maddening. I mean, this is my job. I'm trying to reframe and defeat narratives. But this egg conversation is crazy. Everybody knows the eggs went up last year, and specifically at the end of the year when Biden had the bloodbath. The bloodbath in America, that he liked to talk about was in the chicken houses. He killed all the chickens. The eggs went up. Trump comes in. Now the eggs are down. The attempt by Democrats to flat out lie to the American people about something like that, I think, underscores the weakness in their overall argument. They know Trump is winning. They know the investments are coming. They know the tariffs did not spike inflation. They know the market's up. So they're resorting to this, crock of stuff. And I don't know. It looks weak to me. I'm happy to point it out, but it seems weak to me.
So it's hard, though, sometimes. And I've done this when I was at Fox. They like to have the left-right debates. And you don't want to look like a bully. You don't want to look like a bully especially when you're right and you are right, because then you have the host who's on the other side. You have a guest who's on the other side. It's almost like going into Philadelphia and trying to play the Eagles when the referees are all named Jalen Rose's uncles and nephews.
Yeah, so I want to stipulate a couple of things. I think CNN has made a courageous and correct programming decision to put a debating show on the air. A debating show is a good thing. We should have debates everywhere I go. I don't like you, but I love the debates. I love you. I love the debates. The commonality is people want debates. So I think that's great. I think the Abby show is terrific. It's really the only show like it on TV. We mix it up. It's terrific. I'm very honored to be part of it. I think in the debates, what I have learned is just how weak the liberal arguments are. I mean, look, you could debate Donald Trump. You may not like the tariffs. It's fine to debate the things, but when you have to resort to that sort of very, very dishonest framing or whatever, I think it totally weakens the debate overall. I mean, it makes our side look good, but I think for the Democrats, it tells you they're searching for an identity. And right now the identity is, well, let's just make stuff up and see what happens. And they're in a ditch. They don't know how to get out of it.
So, I spent 6 years on the 5 at Fox, center seat. I used to sit next to a guy named Bob Beckel, a liberal. Certainly not as competent of the counter voice of the other 4 of us as you are with the other, liberal voices on CNN. But Bob, every once in a while, we'd be in a break and his phone would light up, and he wasn't smart enough to hide it was the White House, and it was the Biden White House. It was the Obama White House at the time. And I'm just curious, do you get calls? Does the White House call you and say, hey, let's tweak that little narrative that way? Or is this, people want to know, is this all Scott Jennings, or are you hearing from them?
It's actually the opposite. I call them, and I take my job as a pundit, as a senior political commentator, very seriously. I treat it like a journalist. I spend a good chunk of my day reading things, watching what the president and other politicians are saying. And then in the evening, when I have an idea where we're headed, I pick up the phone. I call the White House. I call people on the Hill. I call people that I trust. I try to bring into these debates the most insider information that I can to inform my own opinions. Where I get frustrated is when people don't do that kind of work and they're just making stuff up. But yeah, I have an ongoing dialogue with people in Washington, people around the country, politicians around the country, because I just think it makes me better as a communicator, as a commentator. Our audience deserves the most informed opinions. That's what I'm trying to give them.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes some people say, I would call you, because of where you are, CNN specifically, and because Trump has noticed what you're doing. He's noticed your work. He likes your work. He talks about it. You could be probably the nation's most well-known conservative commentator. Or if you're a CNN viewer, you might be the black sheep of CNN, so to speak.
Yeah, that's what the Daily Mail over in London calls me, the black sheep of CNN. I love being at CNN. I just crossed my 8th anniversary. I re-signed with the network earlier this year. They've given me the opportunity of a lifetime. And now with this debating show, which we put on the air about a year ago, the format changed about a year ago. I mean, it's really given me and a few other conservatives a chance to have an open engagement that we just haven't had in a long time. I think there's a hunger for it. So I'm really appreciative of the chance to do it. And it's, as you know, a lot of cable is just 5 or 6 people sitting around agreeing. I think the best TV is when you have people in conflict or in some kind of debate. The really best TV is when all the debates are good faith. I was on with Casey Hunt yesterday, a great show, The Arena. We had David Axelrod and Van Jones, who I think are terrific Democrats and 2 of my best friends at the network. We had an amazing conversation about the news of the day. So these good faith debates, I think it's good for the network. I think it's good for the country. And
it is, Scott, but I've been doing this a long time, my friend. You know what rates? It rates when your side wins. And I keep using this analogy to friends that say, why don't you have a really, back and forth debate with a tough liberal? Chris Cuomo and I have a great relationship this way. We'll do more of that. And what people don't tend to really understand is viewers, cable viewers in this type of digital world viewers, they want to see their team win. They don't want to see, it's 6-3 football game. They want to see we won 57-0. And that's where the country is kind of going. Hats off to CNN for trying to be fair and balanced. We just saw Abby Phillips completely undermine your argument was correct. But I get what you're saying. Can I ask you this? A lot of people are floating your name to take over, to jump into the Senate seat, in Mitch McConnell's Senate seat next year in 26. What, you thinking about it?
Yeah, I haven't made any announcements about that. There's 3 people in the race. I know them all, like them all, have been in and out of their lives in varying degrees over the years. I've supported them all in various endeavors. So I'm confident the seat will remain Republican. I do think politics is a team sport. I think Trump's the head coach, and eventually he's going to weigh in on this. And my political advice would be to anybody, if he calls a play, we're going to have to run it. I wouldn't want to run against the president in Kentucky. So I don't really have any announcement about it at the moment.
Let me throw that through the bowling sieve here. If Trump taps you, you're going to run.
I pay very close attention to everything the president says.
Got it.
That's good. What I've learned to do this year.
Good. That's a good position to be in. Tell us about the book, Scott.
Yep. The book is called A Revolution of Common Sense, which is a phrase the president used in his inaugural address. When he said it, it jumped off the screen and off the page to me. I thought that is precisely the branding of what he's doing. And I thought, there's a book here. And I pitched him on it in February. I said, I think 100 books will be written, attacking you. I want one book at least to be written about the early months of your administration that shows how you came back and what you did with the opportunity. We had a great conversation about it in the Oval Office. He liked the idea. So I talked to him. I interviewed cabinet secretaries, people in the White House. I traveled with the president to Michigan on his 100th day in office. It comes out November the 18th. You can pre-order it now. You go to Amazon and type in A Revolution of Common Sense, Scott Jennings. It'll pop up. There's a picture of Trump on the cover. I think you're going to like it. And if you love Trump, you're going to like it. If you don't, I think you're going to learn something about his leadership style from all the people that I interviewed around him.
So let me ask you this. Let me jump back to the question on the Senate seat. What are your thoughts on Rand Paul? He would be the senior, if you did do it, or what's your thoughts on what Rand Paul is doing right now? He's a very staunch libertarian, and to the point where he's against some of the things that Trump's agenda is trying to push through. Your thoughts on the other senator from Kentucky?
I know Senator Paul. I've supported him. I voted for him. I've raised money for him. I've been part of his operation there, just trying to support him. Kentucky's interesting. The same people who vote for McConnell also vote for Rand and vote for Thomas Massie. I mean, we have this libertarian, contrarian streak in Kentucky. We've always had it, and we're sort of proud of it. Rand is the purest representation of that. And this isn't the first time he and the president haven't been on the same page. He voted against him on a few things back in the first term as well. So it's not, if you're a Kentuckian, watching him, carve that libertarian path, it's not new. We know this about Senator Paul, and a lot of Kentuckians love it about him. Obviously, the president is frustrated with him right now on a few things, but that's okay. I mean, you don't have to, these guys are senators, they're their own people. They're a little different than House members, they're their own people. And Rand Paul has always been his own man. He's never hides the ball on his views, and he's voted accordingly. And occasionally it's put him in conflict with the president. There's probably a few votes he's cast that I would have cast differently, but that's okay. It's okay as long as you're honest about why you're doing it and what your views are. I think voters actually respect the honesty, even if it puts you in conflict with someone that they love, like they love President Trump back in Kentucky.
Well, we want to wish you congratulations on the book. Comes out in November, but it's called The Revolution of Common Sense, How Donald Trump Stormed Washington and Fought for Western Civilization. Scott Jennings, really good to meet you, my friend. I feel like we've traveled in different circles, and yet we have kind of similar outcomes. Wish you well. Thank you for the, as of right now, exclusive so far, and thank you. Appreciate your time, and good luck. And if you do decide to run, we're going to come back and talk about that, because I know with CNN and other networks, you get a 2 or 3 week window to promote books. Otherwise, we won't be able to get you back. But if you're going to run, we'll get you back on, my friend.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time today. Great to meet you as well. And congratulations on your show here.
Thank you. Scott Jennings, everybody. All right, folks, before we head to break, just want to remind you about the podcast and YouTube page, both updated daily. You can hear this show. If you missed that interview, caught the tail end of it, you want to see the whole thing, just go ahead and subscribe there. Across the bottom, there's all different places. It's always free. And also, don't forget, give us a shout. Let us know what you think of Scott and CNN and what he's doing. We'll play some of them hopefully tomorrow, but we have a lot going on. The toll-free always. Oh, don't forget, coming up later in this show, John Solomon joins us to talk about his exclusive interview with Donald Trump. We'll be right back. All right, folks, let's bring in the next guest, former CIA covert operations officer, now CEO of Portman Square Group. He also has a daily podcast called The President's Daily Brief, a great podcast. You got to sign up for that. It's a great show. Mike Baker joins the show. Mike, good to have you back, my friend. We'll get to the Epstein stuff. I know everyone's waiting to hear what your thoughts are on Epstein, as am I. But just work us through Ukraine here a little, because as a Trump supporter, as a conservative, as a guy who left a television network because the owner of the network told me not to talk negatively about giving money to the Ukraine, and I literally walked for that reason. I'm just blown away that now we're going to, I guess, through NATO, send some more assets Ukraine way. Break this down for us a little bit, will you?
Yeah, this is a really interesting story, right? And it's also, you're kind of highlighting an important part of it, which is this alternative universe that we're going to find ourselves in, where we're not going to provide direct U.S. aid, but we are going to provide direct U.S. aid. It's just going to be through this U.S. to NATO to Ukraine gravy train, basically. It's a clever idea, and I think one of the reasons why it's coming out of the White House is, look, President Trump spent 3 years, right, criticizing the Biden administration over essentially what they refer to as writing blank checks to Ukraine, right? So, he knows that if he went to Congress right now, it would be a battle trying to get a new Ukraine aid package pushed through. But at the same time, I think he is personally now irritated, frustrated, embarrassed to some degree by Putin, right? Because Putin's doing what you could have anticipated Putin doing a couple of years ago, right? So I think he's frustrated with Putin. I think it's about time. I think that part of it kind of surprises me, right? Because Putin hasn't changed his stride.
Before we get to Putin, stay in Ukraine. Yeah. Are you understanding that these are defensive weapons we're sending, or are these now becoming offensive weapons as well?
Yeah, apparently, according to some sources, it hasn't been confirmed, but they're including offensive weapons. The idea being that, okay, fine, yes, you need air defense, you need, whether it's the Patriot battery systems or not, but it sounds like it's going to morph into offensive weapons as well, because look, frankly, there's more appetite from NATO, European allies, to do that than there has been from the U.S., certainly, from President Trump and previously the Biden administration. So I think,
Mike, I ask this this way because this whole, like, why are we playing around with this, right? So like, for example, Trump pulled the trigger and bombed Iran. Personally, I thought he should have let Israel do what they were doing. They were effectively taking out the Iranian nuclear facilities, and it looked like they were on track to having it done. Maybe not as fast, but we went ahead and did it, put our fingerprints on it. Okay, worked out, everything's great. But now we turn around and are we playing? My question is Trump playing footsie a little bit with with Ukraine, Russia, the way he didn't with the Middle East?
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that's part of the issue here is, look, the Iranian decision, that was very decisive, right? That was decisive leadership, right? And I think it was a smart move, frankly. Look, Israel could have done significant damage to their ballistic missile capabilities, taking out launchers, taking out stockpiles, but they couldn't have done what the U.S. did, which ultimately was the underlying reason for all that angst and concern and over the existential threat of an Iranian nuclear weapon. So that was a good move. What we're seeing in Ukraine, I would argue, is not that same level of decisiveness, right? It's in part, it's because, again, of the political concerns here, the U.S. domestic political concerns. So I know there's a lot of pushback. People saying, why are we even in this? What? Come on, please. So if you push all of that aside, right? I'm not talking about the political angle here, or the America First angle, or whatever it may be. From an operational perspective, if Ukraine isn't supported, whether it's by the U.S. doing this, through NATO, NATO can't do it on its own. If they're not supported, they will lose. And so if you're okay with that, then fine. But you have to get to that point and say, I'm fine with Putin eventually winning this, right? And what that means in a geopolitical sense, right? And so if that's okay, if you're good with that, then fine. I
am. Call me crazy. I am. I mean, I am.
Yeah.
I'm just gotten to the point in my life where it's like I'm tired of losing, blood and treasure, our children to foreign wars and foreign conflicts. Anyway, moving on. This happened today, guys. Can you roll the soundbite of Pam Bondi? Because everyone wants to know: is Pam going to go? Is she going to get replaced? What's going to happen with Cash? What's going to happen with Dan Bongino? But Pam made it very clear just a couple hours ago. Listen.
Madam Attorney General, on this matter of fentanyl, it's a priority clearly for the DEA, the Department of Justice. Are you confident you're going to still be here to execute this? Because there's so many people calling for change at the Department of Justice.
I'm going to be here for as long as the president wants me here, and I believe he's made that crystal clear. It's 4 years. Well, 3.5 now, right? We've got 6 months in.
So, as someone who spent some time on the inside of intel agencies, does she even know that? Can she say that for certain? And I ask your opinion on everything that's going on with all three of those folks.
Yeah, I think in this administration, look, with the Trump administration, it's always operates a little bit differently. I think that's why a lot of people like it than other administrations. You never really can know for sure, right? I mean, because, it always does come down. It's a top-down leadership. Pam Bondi, obviously got out over her skis in earlier comments about the Epstein files. I mean, and that was clearly a mistake, right? And I have no idea. It's all speculation why she felt to make those comments. I've got the file right here on my desk. But look, the bottom line is we also had, a couple of years of people talking about this on TV, just always talking about how damaging this is. And, oh, my God, when this information gets released. Now, you have to also be pragmatic and say, a lot of those people didn't know what they were talking about. They just wanted some airtime, right? So they're going to say something salacious. So you look at that as part of this, and you think, okay, well, the truth probably is somewhere in the middle, right? There's a lack of transparency here that's really concerning at this point, and so that's leading to this incessant cry for what else is there? Why is this being covered up? But I guess I'm trying to say it's complex, right? There's a lot of people who were saying, oh, how bad it is, who had no idea how bad it is because everyone's speculating. But the way that Pam Bondi has handled this, or the way that it's being handled currently, is a complete disaster. I mean, it's a messaging screw up on a different level.
So we only have about a minute or so, Mike.
Sure.
Bondi stays AG. Kash Patel stays director FBI. Bongino, does he stay or go? I've known Dan a very long time, and I'm sure his head is spinning right now. Like the bureaucracy of D.C. may get to a guy who used to do very well in the podcast world, and he may want to head back to that seat. Your thoughts on, let's just call it a year from now. Will those three be in those jobs still?
I think they will. I think because Dan, and in particular, I think he looks at this as a service, right? As responsibility, as duty, and it's also, I mean, he's good where he is, right? I think that's where he's best serving the nation at this time, the administration at this time. So I hope the answer is at the end of the day that yes, all three of them are still where they are, but also I'm going to caveat that by saying, you need more transparency. You can't. This is how conspiracy theories, rise up and never die, right? Because of these moments where people expected something, and then for no apparent reason they got nothing, right? Other than a 2-page memo that sounds like you got to cover up.
Yeah. There are too many people saying there's a list. There's a lot of information. Too many people on both sides all of a sudden for it not to be there. I'm going to agree with Mike Baker here and say, I hope for the country's sake that Pam Bondi is the AG a year from now. Kash Patel is the director of the FBI a year from now, and his deputy is Dan Bongino a year from now. And add that caveat to, and we've seen the Epstein list, and we're taking care of those filthy animals that were on it as we speak. Yeah. Mike, good having you on. Mike Baker, everyone, President's Daily Brief, a great podcast. Sign up for that one as well. Thank you. All right, coming up, John Solomon sits down with us to tell us about his exclusive big interview with President Donald Trump that he did just a couple hours ago. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. All right, folks, let's bring in the CEO and editor-in-chief of Just the News, No Noise. And, by the way, he's got an exclusive interview with none other than the President of the United States, Donald John Trump. Happy to have John Solomon with us. John spoke with the President, and this exclusive interview will air tonight at 6 p.m. here on Rev. Can we just play a quick soundbite? You mind if I jump in before you?
Please.
Let's just take a little listen to this.
Everything else is so strong, we're bullying through the rates, the high interest rates. The housing market would boom if this, numbskull, he's a numbskull. And if this guy can you imagine, we're talking about housing, he's building a building, he's building an addition, I guess for more people to tell him what to do, and he's always wrong. They had 71 different geniuses that they interviewed and that were put up. You probably saw that. I
did.
And with predictions. And the only one that got it right was me and one other person. 69 were wrong. This guy got it wrong, and he wants to put in thousands of additional people to tell him what to say. I mean, how many people do you need? Read a newspaper and make your own decision, right?
Sir, are you thinking of removing him, or do you think he resigns before his term's out, Jerome Powell?
I'd love if he wants to resign. That would be up to him. They say it would disrupt the market if I did, but you know, there are many people who say he should be removed because of the fraud of what he's doing at the Fed with regard to the $2.5 billion. He's spending $2.5 billion to, I guess it's a renovation. I don't know.
That's all it is. It's just a renovation.
I'm very good at that stuff. I should go look at it at least.
Yeah, we got a story up on it today. It's crazy. The building costs less to build than it's cost to renovate. It's insane. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like one of the most expensive buildings in the world. He's putting all sorts of parks on the top of the building and that. And I guarantee the contractors are making a fortune. No, this is not a guy. This is a guy who was recommended. He was recommended to me by Mnuchin. And he worked out good.
I love his candor with you, John. He's a numbskull.
He just called the Federal Reserve Chairman a numbskull.
And then he said, "This guy is recommended to me by Mnuchin." That was wonderful. So, what was your sense? You know, because there's a lot going back and forth right now, John. I follow the markets pretty closely, and there are those on the street who thinks that removing the Fed chair would roil at least the bond market temporarily. I think everything fixes. Do you think he's going to fire? Is he going to wait and see if there's any? This isn't a formal fraud investigation, is it, that he's looking into what Powell did?
No, I think it's a management issue, administrative review. I mean, how do you overspend and get to $2.5 billion on a renovation for a building that doesn't even cost that much to build? It really is concerning to a lot of people, Congress included. We had Julia Letlow on last night, others. I can't believe what we've allowed to happen here. What you hear in President Trump here is that he knows that the Fed needs to be reinvented, that it's leaning backwards. He agreed with some comments David Malpass, the former World Bank president, made a couple days ago. It's got to be reinvented, but I don't want to collapse the market, so I'm willing to wait. And when Jerome's up in 2026, I'll be ready to pounce and make a difference. I think he stays that course. He was pretty clear where he was. He was asked after our interview, and this came out. Other people asked him at the White House gaggle today when he was with one of the world leaders, and he said, "Yeah, no, I don't intend to fire him." So I think he's there for the time being. He's already thinking about what a replacement looks like, but he'll be patient and work his way there.
I mean, there was reportage that he had already written a letter to fire Powell and hasn't really brought that. Do you know anything about that?
I think they were floating different scenarios to Congress. I think at the end of the day, the president does this a lot. He comes up with an idea, he socializes it to make sure that there's not an unintended consequence he's not thinking about. And when he stumbles into one of those unintended consequences, like tanking the market, he backs off because he wants the American people not to suffer unnecessarily. So I think that's the process that went on here. They thought of a couple ideas, they socialized it. The president internalized the feedback and said, you know what, I'm going to do what's best. I don't want to tank people's retirements. I don't want to tank people's 401ks. I want to keep this economy rolling. And yeah, he's going to keep interest rates higher than I like, but I'll work around it and overachieve despite him.
Yeah, he does this very well too. He talks about, should I fire him? Maybe I shouldn't fire. Hey, what do you think? Should I fire? And the person who's on the hot seat hears it, and it's kind of like working the refs in a football game. Eventually,
it's working the refs.
Then they move a little bit. And the reason why I say this is Jerome Powell absolutely does have room to move down on interest rates. They're very slow to move them up, and Biden got smoked for it by having inflation run up so high. But inflation isn't strong, isn't hot right now. They
wholesale prices were flat today. Yeah, wholesale prices were flat today. Europe has done 10 interest rate reductions since the last time we had one here. And I think President Trump cited that today, saying, listen, we're just putting ourselves at a disadvantage because we have a risk-averse Fed chairman. We'll fix it as soon as I can get my hands on it.
Yeah, He's got to be careful. I mean, I've done this a long, long time, and I've talked to Trump about this for years before he ran for president. We used to talk almost every Monday at Fox. He would come on and do a hit, and it was always about the economy, about markets, about energy. You have to be careful that you don't look like you've moved the Fed. You yourself, as president, have moved the Fed in the event inflation does spike, you move the rates down, inflation spikes, then you got nowhere to go. Then you can't say, well, not my fault, because the left, the Democrats, would love to see something like that happen to say, oh, Biden wasn't so bad. See, it was never about Biden in the first place when it was Bidenomics.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Listen, I think this is a Bobby Knight episode. He's working the ref real hard, hoping that the ref rethinks his strategy or thinks of resigning. The president said right at the top of the interview, I hope he does resign. That would be great. But that's not what is probably going to happen. I think he's resigned to working within the parameters of the current chairman until he can get a new one. But he can start building that innovation now so that on day one of the new Fed chairman, they sweep the country with what they need to get done.
John, I don't know if you delved into this at all. I'm just curious what your thoughts. You've known the president a long time. You have a very good open relationship with the man. Your thoughts on whether the Jerome Powell stuff is maybe even a useful distraction from the Epstein stuff. Is the Epstein still hot on Trump's mind?
Nothing was off limits, and we brought up Epstein, and he made some major news. So let me tell you what people are going to see at 6 o'clock. The president first embraces the fact that the FBI has decided to look at the decade of weaponization as an ongoing conspiracy. Everything from clearing Hillary Clinton, starting Russiagate, to trying to clear Hunter Biden and suppress the IRS whistleblowers, to the 2020 election and ignoring the Chinese interference potential, and then Jack Smith chasing Donald Trump all the way around the 2024 election. The FBI has decided to treat that as a single ongoing conspiracy. The president said, I'm glad they did that. I don't know much about it because I leave the FBI alone, but I'm glad they did that. And then he volunteered on his own. Hey, if that has a special prosecutor, maybe they could look at Epstein and give people an extra dose that there's nothing credible there. If there is credible, pursue it. If not, let it go. He embraces a special prosecutor for the weaponization, and you can also throw in Epstein. That could very much mollify and satisfy a lot of the people who've been looking for a solution. The president was not afraid to talk about it. He was open. And I think he's open to this idea. Let's make a special prosecutor. Let's do a 10-year look at weaponization. Hey, Democrats, you want Epstein? Sure. You're also going to have to look at Brennan and Comey and Jack Smith. And he puts that grand bargain on the table. I think the Justice Department runs with that in the next week.
That's great. Great. I'm fascinated by things like this question. You can tell me, shut the hell up, Bolling. I'm not going to tell you. How did the interview come about? Because I know you're close to them, but these are special moments because, as you point out, you get some clarity when he talks to people he trusts, like you. He tends to give the audience, give the people, give the folks, give the world more information, more insight as to what he's thinking. Has this been long in planning, or did it just come up?
No. After the Kash Patel story came out Monday, I talked to the White House and said, listen, I think this is a pretty seminal moment. And do you think the president would sit down? And within 24 hours, he said, yes, he's going to Pittsburgh when he comes back from Pittsburgh. And they set up a time and boom, it just happened. It was really a 2 or 3 hour thing. And, it's interesting. I know people say I'm close to the president. He has always kept the distance of you're a reporter, I'm the president. I just like the fact that you're interested in facts. He said that again today. When he comes on air, one of the first things he mentions is, I read Amanda Head's story last night on a balanced budget. And guess what? She's right. I think I'm going to get to a balanced budget by the end of my term. So you could see he reads a lot of stuff. He processes it. When he sees something that he believes is factual, he engages, and nothing was off limits. You could talk to him about anything. He answered every question as clearly as he possibly could. We will tell you, John, I will be watching very diligently tonight at 6 p.m. You, congratulations on the interview. John Solomon, everyone. Awesome job. 6 p.m. Love the show, tonight. Eric. Thanks. All right, folks. Great stuff. You got to watch that one. Remind you about that podcast we do over there on YouTube, everywhere else. You missed that interview with Solomon or any of the other interviews that we put up today. You can always get it. It's always free. And that phone number, don't forget to call our toll-free hotline where you might hear yourself on TV the next day or a day or two down the road. We'll be back 2.5 minutes. Donald Trump, he's pretty good at keeping things in perspective and telling it how it is. It's what he does. Trump revisited Biden's time in the White House, but blames the radical Democrats for America's Biden-era tailspin. Listen to this.
About it. I think they had, it's called the Freewheeling Autopen. Like, Biden was never for open borders. Biden was never for transgender for everyone. So I don't think I think the radical left people that took over the White House, and if I didn't win, our country was finished.
He's right. They flip. I remember when Democrats, I remember Bill Clinton at State of the Union saying, we can't have a sovereign country with an open border. They've really flipped their script upside down, haven't they? Even Barack Obama has been coming down on his own party pretty hard lately. The Democrats have gone off the deep end. Everyone's watching it. We all know it. We see it. Listen to Obama's advice to his party in 2025.
Trump's agenda. He told donors this over the weekend, quote, I think it's going to require a little bit less navel gazing and a little less whining and being in fetal positions, Obama said, according to excerpts of his remarks exclusively obtained by CNN. And it's going to require Democrats to just toughen up.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the right approach, Obama. Like, you're just going to yell at your own constituents. You're going to yell at Democrats and say, buckle up, buttercup, and get tough. Well, how about you come up with an idea? How about you come up with an idea that the American people want to vote for? That Obama's whole rant there, and I listened to the whole thing. He wrote it out. I watched the whole thing. Not one idea came out of it. He didn't talk about reducing crime. He didn't talk about closing the border. He didn't talk about any of the things that the American people want fixed. He didn't talk about lowering prices that Joe Biden jacked up. So yelling at Democrats to just come out and vote, it doesn't seem like it's the right strategy just yet. But who the hell am I? Jamie Raskin is suddenly calling for the immediate release of the Epstein files. Suddenly, a cause that he and his colleagues really don't care about. They're just happy to contribute to anything that they think will hurt Donald Trump. Well, here's Raskin talking about the Epstein files as if he cared about these things all along, which he hasn't.
There are all kinds of extravagant claims being made about other people being involved, other institutions being involved. And we either need to get to the bottom of whether that's true, or we should put an end to all of the propaganda and the conspiracy theory. It's going to be very damaging for us if the president is going to proceed on falsehoods and conspiracy theory and then allow that to erode public trust. So I think there is something to what a lot of the Republicans are saying, that this needs to be done to restore public trust at this point.
It's incredible. It's incredible. You know, people are worried about midterm elections because typically a president, whoever holds the House and the Senate, if they have all three during an election cycle, a presidential election cycle, you tend to lose the House in the midterms, which would be 26. Trump did the first time. Biden did. I think Trump is going to hold the House in 2026 if clowns like Jamie Raskin are the leadership. Jasmine Crockett, Jamie Raskin, AOC, Ilhan Omar, who loves Somalia more than America. These are the people who are running the Democrat Party right now. Folks, we're in pretty good shape. All right, we'll be right back in 2.5 minutes. I got some voicemails for you. Got some voicemails coming up. All right, folks, we're going to get to a bunch of the voicemails. We do a bunch of them real fast. But first, I want to remind you, I had Scott Jennings on at the top of the show. If you missed it, just go to the podcast or on digital. We'll get it out to you. I just want you to hear it again. We may play some of that for you tomorrow as well. But let's do this. Ben, what's the first title of our first voicemail?
So this viewer wants to see some perp walks, or we're going to lose the midterm.
Do it.
Eric Bolling, this is Charles. I watch your show every day, and I tell you, if we don't start seeing people perp walk, Trump going to lose the midterms. We need to see people start being held accountable and going to jail. Thank you.
That is so true, Paul. Perp walks stop bad behavior. And you're right. We don't see perp walks with these clowns. We're going to lose midterms. Go ahead. Next one, Ben.
This viewer says the drug prices are too high.
Let's do it.
The drugs, Ozempic or one drug in France costs $88. In the United States, it costs $1,100. Why are the Americans always screwed on most things, almost everything, but especially in the drug companies?
Really good point. Especially the drugs. The same drug, GLP-1 drug, in America costs $1,100. In Spain, throughout Europe, $88. It's insane. It's got to stop. Trump's putting an end to that. Next one.
This viewer is tired of all the BS.
Hey, Eric, this is Cajun. I live in Louisiana. I didn't call you before. You know what I'm tired of? I'm tired of all the bull crap. I'm being nice now. I'm not going to curse. I don't want to get nobody in trouble, but I'm tired of the bull crap. I'm tired of bull crap with the government. I'm tired of the bull crap with the media. I'm tired of everything. Why can't they come up with straight up news to make us understand what's going on?
There you go. We're tired of the bull crap too. We weed through the bull crap, and I'm pretty transparent, completely honest with you. This is it. I'm the same person here as out there, so we'll try and keep the bull crap away from this set at least. All right, what else? Next.
We have John from Chicago. He's talking about the Epstein files.
Hi, Mr. Bolling. I appreciate your honesty. I'm John from Chicago. My comment is that if there's so many victims involved with Epstein, how can you not have offenders? Just wondering. Thank you for your time.
Great question, John from Chicago. That sounded like Rod Blagojevich. I don't know. That may have been Rod calling in with a fake voice. But you're right. Hey, look, Ghislaine Maxwell's in jail for a reason. Got a lot of victims. We know the victims. We've seen them. They've testified. They got to be perps. Where there's a victim, there's a perp. Next one.
Lex from Arizona says if you're not born here, you shouldn't be able to be elected.
Hey, this is Lex from Payson, Arizona. I had a question for you. Trying to figure out why they don't codify a law that says if you're not born or raised in the United States, you can't run for mayor, any office, period. So that joker in New York wouldn't be able to qualify for that. So I don't understand why he's able to even do that. So I'd like to hear back from you on that. Thank you much.
It's a great question. It's a really, really good question. With the Convention of States, we let states decide how they want to handle their mayorals and their governors' elections, and maybe they could change the individual constitutions with the state. But for the federal, the Constitution says that the president has to be born in America, on American soil. And so founding fathers maybe didn't see what's going on right now. They were brilliant in many things, but to change the Constitution now, it's literally almost impossible. You need 2/3 of the states. You need 2/3 of the state houses to vote for it. You just got to jump through hoops, and we may never see another constitutional amendment in our lifetimes. Another one, Ben?
This viewer is not too happy with Ukraine.
Number one, we shouldn't be sending anything else to Ukraine. Them, let them fight their own war. Between them and Russia, they're driving us nuts. Trump has done enough. We've done enough. Let them fight their own wars.
Yep, I agree with this guy. Like I said, I swear on my life, I left the network because I was told stop saying that stuff about not sending any more money to Ukraine. They said if I don't stop doing it, they were going to pull me off the show. They offered me a contract that said sign here for another 3 years. I said, no, I'm not doing that if you're going to tell me what I can and can't say. Sorry, it's just the way it is. I agree with that caller. Other people have differing opinions, but that's what we're here. If you don't like what I'm saying, call me and tell me. You guys are telling me as we speak. There are probably 50 callers calling in right now. Do we have time for one quick one, Ben?
Yep, we got a quick one here. Trump should spend money, tariff money on the national debt.
There you go.
Hey, Bowen, they keep bragging about all this tariff money coming in. You get to talk to Trump. Most of us don't. Tell him to pay every penny of that tariff money on the national debt, not to let Congress get their greedy little paws on it.
Yes,
thank you.
This is such a great idea. And technically, it's supposed to go back into the general fund, the Treasury general fund. But as you know, anytime they get money, they spend it. Sometimes they spend it when they don't have it. Really, really important point. Pay down our debt instead of taking the money that he's getting from tariffs and spending it somewhere else. It's a brilliant, brilliant idea. So we have time for War Room's coming up next. Scott Jennings was on earlier. I'm going to get you a piece of that interview tomorrow. I think you'll see it in a lot of places tonight. He talked about whether he's going to run for Senate in Kentucky. War Room up next. Bannon. Have a good night.